I think it's very much a vote against populism and against traditional politicians. The center candidates all lost out. So he was the best of what was left. If you leave off the left and the center, you have a far-right candidate. But I think the outlook is much more encouraging because his economic advisor, Paulo Guedes, very much a centrist economist, reform-minded, and I think a very smart tactician to get some of these reforms and new policies through.
The market has liked what it's heard all along through this election campaign from Bolsonaro. But if you consider the type of country he's going for, where he talks about the old military rule with some nostalgia, effectively a hardline, hard-arm politician, how does that provide more confidence to a country that's been racked with corruption over year after year? It's hard to see how you clean up the system, drain the swamp, and create a brand new country with institutions that many workers and businesses can trust. That's not going to change overnight.
No, I would view Bolsonaro as a transition character. What has to happen is that the economy needs to get growing again. They've been in stagnation and recession for the past 3 years. And I think they know that. I spoke with Mr. Guedes last November when I was in Rio, and he said, look, Brazil is a country that has a social conscience. So any government that wants to succeed has to recognize that. So I think after the election, you'll see a move much more to the center-right in terms of policy. So I don't think in terms of economics you're going to have the kinds of policies that have been associated, for example, with the Chicago Boys in Chile going back to the Pinochet days.
Larry, the critical thing, though, is that he takes steps very early to show his colours and to show how reform-minded he actually is. So does that mean that this pension reform bill that's currently stuck in Parliament is going to get fresh momentum even before he gets sworn in?
I think markets will go down the wrong road if they focus on pension reform, because the key goal is to get growth going again. So what I expect from Guedes is he's going to initiate reforms of the central bank. He's going to reach out to centrist economists, and he's going to do things that can get growth going again. That's the number one priority. Pension reform in any country is going to take a long time. So yes, there'll be some nice words about pension reform, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. It's not going to come very quickly.
The problem is that pensions and social spending consume half of the federal budget. So if you're going to provide some fiscal looseness, you need to have some reform on the spending side, don't you?
Well, I think they have very little room for cutting official spending. So I think what needs to happen to get growth going again is that he needs to restore confidence.
Right.
And investment has plummeted. So he needs to restore business confidence. And if he can do that, I think he can get the economy going again, and that will make the pension reform easier.
Well, let me ask you, just how long do you think this honeymoon period lasts? Because the ETF in Japan that we're talking about has jumped 13% on the back of this result. And that's even as we've seen Brazilian assets repriced, because this was the market's candidate. So one, does this mean that we're now set for a purple patch for Brazilian assets and what looks like an undervalued real at this point? And two, is there a chance that this feel-good could begin to spread into other Latin American markets when people say, hey, well, at least this one's not Venezuela either, so we'll have a bit more?
Yeah, I'm.
Or am I over-egging the pudding here?
I'm a bit skeptical. So I'm more on your side, because pension reform in any country is going to take a long time. But Brazil has the potential to grow substantially faster than it has, and because it's been in recession, it's on the bottom. So what he needs now is confidence building measures, and he's coming new to a job which is going to be daunting. So I think the honeymoon period There is going to be a honeymoon period, but it's going to be limited. So I would say 3 to 6 months is my expectation.
There is a tailwind here, though, isn't there, around trade? Because there is a sort of feeling that the Brazilian farmers are doing well on the back of high soybean prices and also increased demand, given this US-China spat over trade, and that there's been a huge pivot towards this country, not to mention all the investment coming from China into some Brazilian assets. So there is sort of a smoother road, so to speak, for Bolsonaro at this point.
Yeah, I think he got very strong support in the rural sector. And so what's going to boom in Brazil initially is going to be agriculture, because we don't anticipate that the US-China spat is going to get solved anytime soon. So Brazilian farmers are very productive. What needs to happen is they need to improve the infrastructure so they can actually get the beans to the ships to get exported. In terms of China, he's been, Bolsonaro that is, he's been rather negative on China. So I think there'll be a very cautious approach to Chinese investment in Brazil. He's not going to open his arms to Chinese investment.
Hey everybody, it's Hadley Gamble from our new CNBC Middle East Bureau in Abu Dhabi. Thanks for stopping by. Now to watch more, you can try one of the videos that just popped up on your screen. And don't forget to subscribe.